What's up, everybody? I'm ZWade, the ZWade, and ZWade Photo, and over the last 5 days I have shot the absolute crud out of a Nikon Z5 that I got on rental. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to make my review video while I still had it in my hands. I used it up until the very last day before I had to box it up and send it back to Borrow Lenses, who I am not sponsored by, but it was a great service. Before I dig into my thoughts, I want to invite you to ZWadePhoto.com. Let's check out the promo. There you can check out my personal art portfolio, 4 different categories containing my favorite images of those categories. If you want to help support the channel, you can swing by the print shop and pick you up a print. I have several enrolls ready to go right now. You could swing by the ZWade Photo merch shop and pick yourself up a Do It Right, Do It Raw coffee mug. We also have the ZWade Photo t-shirt available in 2 colors, and guys, the material is soft, as are the hoodies. The material is so soft. These are available in 3 colors, navy blue, black, and if white clothing is your thing, we've got it in white. Last but not least, my favorite, the embroidered ZWade Photo hat, available in 2 colors. If you'd like to help support this channel, swing by ZWadePhoto.com. So my experience with the Nikon Z5 was really positive. I didn't really dive into the menus and set it up like my Z6 II. I didn't want to make a bunch of changes to it before I sent it back to Borrow Lenses. But I did use it in auto area focus, and it seemed to be as good or bad, you could argue, as the Z6 II. I still think the ZFC has the most evolved auto area AF. It seems to really grab what I want most of the time. The Z5 suffers from the same things as the Z6 II and Z7 II do. It grabs what you want sometimes, and sometimes it just decides to go a little bit off. You know, it decides to go to the leg of your subject instead of the face, or just some goofy Nikon shit. You get the same amount of megapixels in the Nikon Z5 as you do the Z6 and Z6 II. The sensor is very similar, but it is not the same. It has been kind of compared to the D750 sensor. I don't know exactly how similar that is, but I feel like, and it could be because of the lenses, but I feel like the clarity of the images on the Z5 are better than the D750. And so I don't know what changes they have made. I don't know if they've just updated it a little bit and maybe they cannibalized the D750 but did some tweaks. But I've shot the D750 many times in the past, although I've never owned one. I have shot one a lot, and I do feel like that you get the Nikon Z system like clarity. If you've shot the Z system, you know what I mean by like the clarity. The images just look a certain way. They look great. They look like Nikon files. And the Z5, you get Nikon files. I am not quite sure. We will see in the next video exactly how much you're losing by not having a backside illuminated sensor. The Z6 II and Z7 II and Z6 and Z7 all have BSI. The Z5 does not. But kind of to the point of why you would maybe want a Z5 is if you shoot a particular way, and I'll get into that in detail, you may not need BSI. And so I shot some images that were underexposed, and I shot some that were severely underexposed. I'm putting that video out right after this one, literally within the hour. That one will be available. I'm not going to stagger them for the sake of having 2 videos, because I want you to jump right into it, because this is an important thing. If you're on the market right now, I want you to be able to not have to wait another week before you get it. So I'm going to put that out really, really soon after you see this video. We're going to see how much adjustment we can get away with before we start getting noisy, and at what ISO it kind of starts to get noisy. I know the Z6 II really well. I am an absolute fiend against noise. I am at constant war with it. You shouldn't care about noise like that. I'm unique. My style calls for ultra clean images, right? And so that's what I go for. And so I don't like, noisy images, but you shouldn't worry like I do. The point that I want to make is that the Z5, if you are shooting slow photography, and by the way, 4.5 frames a second It was plenty for wildlife in the past. People got by with it. Obviously, it's easier with faster FPS nowadays. It is easier. But if you don't shoot that kind of stuff at all, then I don't know why you would get the Z6 versus the Z5 if you're not interested in like action, or if you're not doing a whole lot of like higher ISO things. If you like clean image output, honestly, the noise is not going to be that much different than probably the D750. So if you have experience with the D750 and you want to get into the mirrorless system, you're probably going to have similar noise performance or ISO performance as you would in the D750, only you get access to this new awesome like Z glass. And I do think that you may be able to argue this. Personally, I think that the Z cameras just hit on a different level on the image output. The image output on the Z5 is spectacular. It is really, really good. Had the Z5 been out at the time that I got my Z6, I may have actually opted for the Z5 because I don't need a lot of speed. The more time goes by, I've already stopped accepting sports work, you know, like I'm not going to shoot any kids or anything like that. I don't really have time, and I won't have time to do a lot of wildlife for at least 2 more years. And so I'm mostly doing the bodyscapes and the fine art nudes and the standard portraitures and dramatic portraitures. And you don't need a Z6 for that. If you don't mind SDs, you don't need granted, CF Express Type B is extremely reliable and they are extremely durable. They're also quite expensive. Dual SD card slots in the Z5, right? And SD cards are dirt cheap. You only need like 128 gigs. You probably get by with 64 gigs if you're just doing like a portrait session, you know? And so that's plenty. So you have one that you probably won't fill up, and then you have another one that you can write backup to. And so you have the card slots that you want. 24 megapixels is enough. They look great, right? It's just as much as the Z6 II. As far as 100 ISO versus 100 ISO, I don't really see that any difference. They both look great. They look like Nikon files, which is what I am after. I like Nikon files. And so if you look at the price of the Z5 and you look at the price of the Z6 II, I mean, the choice is quite obvious to go with the Z5 if you're not doing a lot of low light stuff, or if you're used to doing low light stuff with like a DSLR, not the 850 that had BSI, but like a 750 or a 610, like you're probably not going to notice much of a difference in the ISO performance. And so if you're ready to upgrade to the Z system and you shoot the kind of stuff that I've been shooting, then the Z5 is an awesome choice. That would have been a better choice for me than the Z6. Not that I didn't like the Z6, I really did. And one CF Express card slot is, I mean, that's fine for most people. For me, I've run into situations where, you know, I go to import my images onto my computer, and for whatever reason, it just does some stupid PC shit, and it fucks up my card, and it can't read it, and I lost the images off the Z6. I don't have to worry about that with, you know, 2 card slots, whether it's a CF Express Type B and then an SD, or 2 SDs, or 2 CF Express, whatever, because if it does that funky shit, then that's a rarity. It's happened twice in like 2 years, but it's devastating when it happens. You don't have to worry about that as much. It's like, okay, I know it's not going to happen again. The odds are just 0 on that. You could throw your other card in there. So you can't complain about not having enough card slots. You know, I don't see many things to complain about with the Z5 at its price point. I think it's a good value, a really good value at the price point. Give me a second because I have to check the price. I just want to make sure it's like not on sale right now. Basically $1,300. I didn't pay that much less for the Nikon ZFC that's recording me right now. If this didn't have a utility of making YouTube videos, then honestly the Z5 would be an awesome full frame camera for me to treat like I treat the ZFC, which is just taking out and not really worrying if somebody wants to rob me at gunpoint. You know, here, take it. You know, it's not worth my life. And so, I mean, if I was looking for like a backup, like a secondary full frame camera, let's say you have like a Z9 or something and you want like a backup camera. I mean, you don't really need to bother with the Z6 II for a backup camera. The Z5 is an awesome choice for 1,300 bucks. It basically all boils down to, I think it's a great camera. I like the simplicity of the top. I don't need that goofy, you know, LED screen that's on the Z6 II. I never look at it anyway. And so it's fine that that's not there. I like the options, or the dial being on the right side. I think I like that better than it being on the left side. It's just because I can literally do everything with like one hand, you know, and so that's nifty. You have all the same buttons. You got your joystick on the back. You know, it feels the exact same. I was expecting it to be of cheaper build quality, but it literally feels exactly like the Z6 II. I reached into my bag and to grab the Z6 II, and I went to check to make sure I was in U2 because that's what flash is set up for, and I was like, oh shit, this is the Z5, and I had to put it back because they literally feel the same. It's like the exact same body, exact same materials used. It feels the same. I didn't really notice much of a difference in the back screen. It looks great. The EVF looks great, although I will say the one bad thing that I found with the Z5 is this. When you look through the Z6 II and the Z7 II, even with glasses on, you look through it, if you kind of get off to the side a little bit, then it's really like no different. The Z5, the actual glass that is right here as you're looking in the EVF, it is different. This here, it's actually a different color, and I noticed that whenever I took it out, but I didn't really think it meant anything. It does. Whenever you're looking through the Z5, and it is actually really annoying, if you tilt it off to the left a little bit, like if you just roll it out like that, you get a purple glare that is so severe that it actually blocks the EVFs. And so, like, if you have light coming across, oh my god, it's bad. It is a noticeable purple glare, and that's horribly annoying. And so, but when you're looking just straight through it, I'll say again, the EVF looks fine. I don't think it's as high of a resolution as the Z6 II and Z7 II, but it looks great looking through there, and it's not super laggy or anything like that. It's got a good like refresh rate or frame rate or however they call it out. I don't know, but it is really annoying, that glare, and it does not happen on the Z6 II. Whenever I noticed it, I instantly went inside, grabbed this, and kind of kicked it off to the side, and I even went directly into the sun. And although the sun obviously makes it harder to see the EVF, so you have to do that, but it wasn't giving me that glare. I could still see things inside there. It's not like that on the Z5. It's horrible. On the Z5 II Nikon, charge a few more extra bucks to just use the same glass, because that's a huge drawback. Other than that, I don't really see many downsides to the Z5. I needed to throw that in there before I wrap this up. So, in the comments below, let me know if you've used the Z5, if you're shopping for a Z5, or maybe you had it and you didn't like it and sent it back. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you thinking about getting it right now? Let me know. Let's have a pleasant conversation about it. I'm ZWade, the ZWade, and ZWade Photo, and I will catch you in the next one.